And I remember you telling me that you're not a big fan of music documentaries. You didn't think of yourself as someone who's going to make a music documentary. Can you talk about how it went from that initial reaction of that's not me to presenting this film?
Yes, but first, before I answer that, I have to shout out a few people who are here that appeared in the film. As far as I know, there's 3 people that appeared in the film here. So first is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Clive Davis.
Hey, Clive.
Hey, Clive.
We would not be sitting here if that man did not do what he did for me. Well done, thank you.
And second is Mr. Ben Ratliff is in the room somewhere. Where are you, Ben? Hi, Ben.
Hey, Ben. Let's have a drink later. He was great.
He's great.
I love it.
When Kenny watched the film, he said Ben was his favorite part.
Absolutely.
So I could have talked to Ben about anything for like 100 hours. So thank you, Ben, for participating in the film. You gave me so many good questions to think about. And the third person is John Halley. Where are you, John Halley? Oh, in the back? Back there? Yeah, I think he's hiding. So I just want to recommend to everybody they seek out John Halley's piece for Jacobin magazine. It's called In Defense of Kenny G. It got Jacobin magazine more hate mail than any other thing they've ever published. It's a Marxist publication. Yes. So I recommend people read that piece. It's very provocative and it's really convincing and well done. Okay, so now I'm going to answer your question. So I guess when I thought about music, I instantly thought about taste, because I feel like music, more so than any other art form, has this like deep connection to our identities, and our opinions about those musical tastes are very strong. And I also thought about when I was a college professor, which I mentioned earlier, I was a college professor for a long time, and I taught art to undergraduates. And there was always a class where I had to explain 2 things. One, there is no objective criteria by which we can judge art. There isn't. It's all opinion, and you can like dress it up in whatever you want, and we're gonna do that, but it's just subjective at the end of the day. And 2, I will be grading you. So these 2 things, this contradiction, I thought, I always had that in my head, and I always wanted to try to find a way to explore it. So all those things came together, and I really thought of Kenny almost immediately, because I wanted to think of a subject that inspired great passions and also conflict, because I think that's where a lot of music documentaries lack, is conflict. So that's where it came from.
And you were proposing this, you didn't know Kenny G, you didn't know whether you would go for this.
Yeah.
So Kenny, when someone reached out to you and said, the lady who made a film about Satanists would now like to make a film about you, what was your reaction?
Well, I watched the Satan movie first, but I kind of got the joke of the movie, and I liked the fact that you.
Oh, jeez.
I just thought that you did a really clever and brilliant job. So I thought that this is a smart lady. So if she's going to go after it, it's going to be a truth-telling film. And then we had lunch together, and we enjoyed each other's company. But she didn't tell me that the first 15 minutes of the film were going to just be Ben just dogging me the whole time. But I thought it was great. Well done.
Penny, what was that like when you showed Kenny the film for the first time?
Well, it's always scary when you're showing the star of your film, the film that you've made about them. That Kenny gave me so much. He was so generous with not just his time, but like his story and his soul. So you want to handle that with care. So of course I was nervous, and I tried to think about like what it would feel like to be him. I tried to put myself in his shoes, and I was like, God, it must be so scary to hit play. Like, just what is this thing gonna be? So everything I knew about you sent me down the path of thinking, I'm gonna prepare him so that he can be the best viewer of this the world has ever seen. So I sent him an
I
email.
rubbed off on you, obviously.
So I sent him an email where I pretty much just described the whole film. Like I was sort of like, okay, here's what it's going to be like in the beginning, and then this is going to change, and like it's not the same all the way through, and you know, hang in there. Maybe you'll hate the first 10 minutes, but please keep watching. And I tried to like lay out the philosophy of the film and explain what I was doing. Which did that help at all, or?
No, it really didn't matter because I enjoyed it from the beginning. Like I said, I enjoyed the first part of the movie. I thought it was really good. It's not stuff that I haven't heard since the mid-'80s, so I've heard all of that before. So 40 years of it, so just because I see it in 40 years later, it's not gonna really affect me that much. I just thought it was, I appreciate that you wrote me that to warn me, made me feel good about our friendship, that you were concerned, but it didn't need to, it was all
Well,
good.
and that's important to say, like, I mean, by the time I approached Kenny with this film, I had learned enough about him, I'd watched interviews and stuff, and I had the sense that he just didn't care about that stuff, and it wasn't going to, like, crush his soul if I broached this topic with him, so I wouldn't have done it with any other artist. I really can't think of any other artist that would have done this, really. Like, who would have been perfect for the subject and also who'd agree to participate. So, yeah, so we lucked out.
I think I thought too.
Kenny, Clive Davis, in the audience, I'd love to hear you elaborate on what Clive has meant to your career.
Well, okay, this is, how much time do we have? You know, it's, just try to picture yourself just kind of doing your thing, and I was part of a band in the early 80s, and I'm a sideman, and then Clive, out of nowhere, you know, comes and approaches and says, hey, you'd like to maybe do a solo record, and I thought, wow, this is amazing, you know. And then the thing that's the main thing is, the first records, as you pointed out, like they didn't sell all that well, but it wasn't like they gave up on me. They just kept thinking of other ways to go about making the next records, and he stood by me, and writing those letters to those radio programs, that was unbelievably huge. Because without that, they're not going to play the music. And no matter how much we want them to, it's Clive Davis saying, remember you heard in the film, you know, I've given you a lot of good music, I need a favor. And so when he puts himself out there like that, that's a huge thing. It literally changed my life. And so, I mean, Clive, I owe so much to you, and your being here tonight means so much to me. And, you know, I don't know how else to say that my whole life is different because of this man, and we've always felt like we're family. He's always made me feel that way, and we were together for 25 years, and yeah, I love him so much, and just appreciate the fact that he's who he is. I mean, Clive, would you want to say a few words about like what it was like back in those days? If I bring the mic to you, would it be okay?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clive Davis.
Well, let me say a few things. One, the singular achievement that Kenny was able to accomplish is so tough to do. It's passed over, you know, a little bit, but you could not do that and get radio to play it. It was not just one song. And he was able to incorporate the writings of Kashif or Nora Michael Walden or Walter Afanasieff, and to put his own stamp on it, so that it was not a one-hit wonder. And when you look over all the instrumental artists that we've all lived through in our life, it really, I'm just re-emphasizing it. What a singular achievement to do this over several decades. There's one point that I'm happy to add to the film, Penny.
See what it's like, Penny? See what it's
And
like?
that is, it's one thing to just do it on record, but Kenny G, from the very beginning, and what led me to him, was an electrifying live performer. And that you can orchestrate, that you can delegate, whether the artist can really take the music and electrify the audiences. And before he had any hit, it was that unique ability that stood out in the Jeff Lorber band, that there was this sax player who, when he stood up, the audience went crazy by the time he finished. And I'm so grateful to him. There were so many events that we shared together. And there was always the time where I would ask him to play and just watch him going among all of you, taking that saxophone, bending down and playing to you, that electrified audiences and still today. So much love, congratulations.
Thank you, Clive Davis. Penny, how was your thoughts about Kenny G's music changed to making the film?
Oh, so much. I mean, I would say that really two things. One is that I sort of wanted to answer a question for myself going into it, which is like, what do you do with, oh, geez. What do you do with these broken chairs? What do you do with these like conflicts in artistic taste? Like, what do you do with them? So eventually I came to believe from making this film that if you have one person who loves a song and the other person who hates it, I think the person who loves it is just right. And it's just, that's it. I've just decided, that's it. So we can all, thank you for, no, I mean, I think that, I just think the other person isn't getting it and doesn't like it and isn't catching something. Like there's something they're missing. And it doesn't mean they're dumb or wrong themselves, but they're less right than the person who loves it. The love is so much more real. You know, and so for me, this leads to the second point, which is that there's a scene in the film that I always knew I wanted, even before I started it, which was the wedding videos montage. I mean, I had that in my head, like when I made the pitch. I didn't know what song it would be, I didn't know what it looked like, but I knew there must be, who knows, thousands and thousands of people who have gotten married to this music. Wouldn't it be incredible to see that? Like there must be wedding videos, so. And it turned out the song was Forever in Love. That's the song that I found the most wedding videos that had in there. And so watching those videos, I cry every time I watch that scene. I'm so moved by it, and it just feels like such a door stopper of a thing. You know, it's just kind of like, okay, like these people, this is real. Like this is a real thing that's happening here, and it's kind of inarguable in a way. So that's kind of where I landed with it.
And
I love that song now, because now I think about those people. Like when I hear that song now, I think about those people getting married.
So when you get married, I guess I'm getting the call. No charge, Penny, no charge. It'll be on the house.
Really, you just really increased my chances of getting married. It's like a dowry. I have a dowry now that comes with Kenny G.
That's
for
right,
my performance.
You got that in your pocket. You can pull it out anytime you want.
Kenny, one of the things that's so moving to be in this film is your relationship to your teacher, your high school teacher, James Gardner. And I know from talking to you that you hadn't seen him in many years, and I take it that Penny kind of, for the purpose of the film, arranged that meeting. Can you talk more about that relationship?
Yeah, it probably was over 20 years since we saw each other. It's not that we didn't have a good relationship, but we just didn't keep in touch for whatever reason. So when I saw him in the driveway there, I don't know if you, when you watch it, if you could relate to that, but I had not literally seen him in 20 years. So when I hugged him, I was just very emotional. Now that guy was, you know, when you're in high school, you're still just trying to find your way. And I knew that I was a decent player, and he just really, you know, focused on me and brought me into his professional band. And then one of the things that also changed my life was the fact that he had me play with Barry White. I don't know if you know who Barry White was back in the 70s, but this was a big, huge star, and he was coming into Seattle, and they needed a sax player, and for some reason he convinced them to let this high school kid play play the show, and it was a big deal to me that he did that.
Wait, didn't you wear your bar mitzvah suit?
I wore my bar mitzvah suit that night. Yeah, I did not have a suit. So yeah, but you know, it's just when you look up to somebody like a teacher and they really, you know, give you the things like what he said in the movie, like, is he going to pass on something that's going to change your life? He actually did. And what he did was he wrote these big band charts for our high school band. That's why we won those the nationwide high school big bands. We won first place because of his charts. Yeah, our playing was good, as you saw. It was a cool band, but because of all that, he really did have a huge effect on me and my playing, and kind of introduced me to, like I said, Grover Washington Jr. That record was a big deal to me when I first heard it in the band room, because I had never heard any, like, back in those days, no computers, no cell phones, so how do you hear music? Either on the radio or you have to actually go buy a record. So I didn't really hear much saxophone stuff. When I heard that, I didn't even know that was a saxophone because it sounded so beautiful. And thinking, wow, a saxophone can sound like that, that means that I really want to strive to get there. So that was a big deal too.
Kenny, as I wrap this up this evening, I want to ask you about your drive, your ambition, your relentlessness at practicing, and I wonder, as you get older, what goals you set for yourself. I mean, you're an early investor in Starbucks. You don't really need to be doing this, I don't think.
Wait, can I just say that was like the one time that you fake modesty, and you're like, oh yeah, it turned out to be a really good investment.
Is that now or then?
In the film.
Or in the film, yeah.
And you hear me laughing off camera because I was like, yeah, understatement. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
But especially in this pandemic, it's caused a lot of people to ask different questions about their life, and I wonder. And for you, it's meant that you're not doing the touring that you used to do, and so I wonder where your head is at coming out of this pandemic.
Well, I mean, I wasn't doing the touring because of the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, before that, we were out on the road doing our normal, 75 shows a year. That's seems like about the sweet spot for me is 75 to 80 shows a year. Sounds about right. So I'll probably, once we get back and the venues start to open up again, I'll probably start to do that again. So I don't feel like I'm going to be slowing down about that. There's also Cameo now, so we do cameos, which is a cool thing that you can do.
He's like the best at Cameo.
It's fun to do because it's a really cool way of connecting with people, and I like that. But that doesn't replace live performances, and I appreciate, Clive, what you said about my live performances. We love to do it. I've been doing it since I was 17, and so the drive, some people just wired that way. I mean, you can ask my son. My son Max is here. He's seen me for 28 years doing my thing, and he's a guitar player. And he understands that the practicing is what it takes, and he's putting in the hours, and he's an amazing guitar player because he practices all the time. So I don't know. I'm wired to want to be. Okay, I want to be my best. So I'm gonna change a little bit in the film because we did that like a year and a half ago, right? So I'm a little smarter than I was a year and a half ago. So I don't want to be the best. I want to just be my best. So I'm gonna just focus on my best efforts, Tom. So if my best efforts take me and I am the best, then that's great. But if my best efforts take me here, I have to be happy with my best efforts. So I'm gonna just temper all of that just a little bit with I think a more sane approach, because otherwise I'm never going to be happy, because you can never ever be perfect. You can't. Maybe once in a while you'll have a perfect performance, and I'd say out of the 75 shows, maybe there's 3 or 4 where I walk away and go, okay, that was really, every note was perfect, but that doesn't happen all the time. So you have to be happy with your best efforts. And also, I've got a lot of practicing to do. I mean, I'm still working on my scales and my tone and my technique and my mechanics and my tonguing and my altissimo notes, and I'm still trying to become better and better and better. So, I don't know what to tell you. I'm looking forward to playing more gigs, and I hope I'm sure, you know, I hope people really like this. I'm really excited about this duet that I did with Stan Getz. This is why this is so cool, because we took notes. He actually played Happy Birthday, Stan Getz, in one of his shows. And it was a place where there wasn't any other music attached, so I could grab the notes without a chord. And so we took those notes, and with our technology that we have these days, I took the notes and changed the notes and made the notes play the melody, and I think it's super cool.
Oh, and that album is coming out pretty soon.
We have the album called New Standards coming out the same day that the film comes out.
Oh, wow. Good guess.
But I want you to know that I played that, Ben, this is for Ben mainly. I played the album for Stan's family, for Monica Getz and the son and the daughter and everybody, and they literally had tears and they loved it. So I know the jazz community is not going to really like what I did, as I said, but I think it's a really beautiful piece. And by the way, all the money is going to the Stan Getz estate. So if you want to support like the old jazz musicians and their family, buy that single and all that money goes to them. So there you go. Tom, that's not what you asked me, but I had to elaborate.
Penny, the film is going to be on HBO
December 2nd.
December 2nd.
It's part of the Music Box series, which starts sooner, so it's like in the middle of the series.
Who else is on the Music Box series?
Oh, man.
We've got several of those
Oh,
films.
yeah.
If you're a Kenny G fan, you'll love the DMX film, which is going to be here. DMX.
Am I in that film too?
Don't Try to Understand here on Saturday night. There's Jagged, the film about Alanis Morissette, is going to be here this weekend. Not part of the Music Box series, but if you love music, Dionne Warwick, another great Twitter musician, will be here on Friday night for Dionne Warwick, Don't Make Me Over. We've got 8 days of films ahead of us. I so love you for being out here in the theater tonight. It means so much to these filmmakers. I hope you come back. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks especially to Penny G and Penny Lane.